You're the Colts fan here. Obviously, this is going to be a huge divisional matchup against the Texans and the Colts this weekend. How do you see this game playing out? And then how do you see both teams, as far as the roadmap is concerned for this season, how do you see both teams navigating the season as a whole?
I mean, this is going to be one of the toughest matchups of the year. Again, I mentioned it in my lead up or in my introduction. Last year ended in a horrible manner. I remember watching the game with some of my friends at the bar, and it literally came down to one catch all the way at the end. Drop pass behind him, or excuse me, a throw behind him. You can go down the list of whatever the reason is. Injuries screwed us last year. Inexperience screwed us last year. Contract holdouts with Jonathan Taylor being there, not there the offseason, that screwed us. Now we came back reloaded. We had a pretty decent draft. I think that the camp and team that we have right now is decent. I still think that Houston wins the division just because I think that they are still better than us. I think that the acquisitions that they made are better than us. I think that their team is overall constructed better than us, but I do know that we can give them a run for their money. And the reason why I say that is we did all of what we did last year and a lot of Gardner Minshew. And that is no slight to Gardner. I know that I kind of crapped on him all season last year. I was very, very critical of his performance, but we still found a way to be relevant. We still found a way to be in a position to compete for a playoff spot despite everything that we had gone through. But Shane Steichen's offense has shown me one thing and one thing only. There is so much potential. Because we were able to do that with Gardner, with Anthony Richardson, all we need to see is his continued development. I need to see him make better decisions in the pocket. I need to see him slide and prevent his injuries. And I also need him to be accurate with his reads. So from a Colts fan standpoint, I hope that we can at least win 9 to 10 games again. I'm not going to sit here and be satisfied with middle of the pack. I'm just being more realistic. I think our schedule is kind of like not the hardest in the world, but it's not the easiest. I think in the middle of the year, we have a couple of difficult games coming up. But overall, when you have to face Houston twice, Jacksonville twice, we haven't beat God knows in how long. I'm not going to sit here and sleep on Tennessee, even though we're their father. I mean, we've been playing very well against them. At the end of the day, I really do think that the Colts can make some noise. It's just truly and honestly on the shoulders of Anthony Richardson. Our secondary is probably our weakest aspect just because we don't have any definitive corners that can go out there and make a play outside of Kenny Moore, but that is our nickel corner, not really an outside. So based on how the secondary goes, it's probably going to be how the defense goes. We got to see how the pass rush works, but overall, I think the Colts are poised for an above 500 season. It's just a matter of the health of Anthony Richardson. Houston, you go and you add Daniil Hunter. You go and you add Joe Mixon. You go and you add Cam Akers for depth. Then you go and you get Stephon Diggs. And then you not only add Diggs, you give him exactly what he wants. They basically took off the remainder of the contract that he had with Buffalo, and they gave him a prove-it deal. We turned it into guarantees. We turned it into incentives. You want to stay in Houston. You want to play with C.J. Stroud. You got to show us you're not going to be a headache in the locker room. You're not going to be a distraction to the locker room. Oh, look, there it goes again. And then you're going to have to perform because there were plenty of opportunities during that run with Buffalo last year where Stephon Diggs was eliminated from games due to his mentality. He got in his own head. He had some key drops in the playoffs, and there were just some instances where he was just not on the same page with Josh Allen. So they need to wipe that slate clean, come to Houston, and get ready to go. D'Amico Ryans, very much a coach of the year candidate again this year, depending on how this team goes. Obviously, he was the runner-up last year to Kevin Stefanski, but he showed that he can rally a group of men. He can rally this defense to make them better. And when you go and you add a perennial Pro Bowler like Daniil Hunter, somebody who is averaging well over double-digit sacks for the majority of his career, this is somebody who is going to be a disruptor alongside Will Anderson on the opposite side. So this is going to be a very scary team. I think that the Houston Texans can easily win 11 to 13 games depending on their strength of schedule. I personally have not looked at it, but I know for a fact with this roster very minimal teams that can beat them one-on-one. Obviously, I mentioned Philadelphia is one of the better teams in the league. Obviously, Kansas City is one of the better teams. Then you go and you have the Baltimore Ravens as well, the Cincinnati Bengals, and go on and so on and so on. But again, I don't know their schedule. So I would say that they win the AFC South. I think that they end up getting either a first-round bye. I think that C.J. Stroud is that good. I think they'll be a top 2 seed, or they'll be right there on the cusp of top 3, top 4. But again, the Houston Texans are only going to get better with experience. C.J. Stroud is absolutely a generational talent. And then you go and you have D'Amico Ryans. It's going to be a compelling game. games against the Houston Texans over the course of the last couple of seasons, despite injuries to the quarterbacks, have been competitive. And I think that Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud moving forward over the next 5 to 10 years are going to be electric matchups. So I got Houston beating us by a narrow margin. I hope that we pull it out. But when it comes to what I think Houston brings to the table, the confidence that they have coming back, and our weakness in the secondary, I think that Houston's going to find another way to slip one past us.